put your pride aside as a man. I've done this personally. And I know it's something that we are always shy to speak about. You're just like, now I must put my pride aside. You don't know me. I know where I come from. I was taught, and perhaps maybe you were the top guru or the should I say, the top guy in your community or your society. But hey, when things hit the fan, you need to seek for counseling or help. I always say that, you know what, there were times where as I was shy to speak to someone, especially seeking for professional help. I was like, you can deal with this. I just told myself one day that, you know what, that pride would take you 6 feet underneath the ground. You need help, my brother. I had to have self-talk with myself. You know, those moments when you sleep and you are just like, here we need to see someone. Otherwise, someone will see us going. From there, did the call. You know, at first you are even shivering. They're going to judge me now. And then now when someone even picks up like, yes, hi, how are you? How can we help you? Mm-hmm. The first thing that comes into your head is silence. You're just like, must I continue? What if they'll judge me? But I'm a guy, man. I'll let it slide.
Welcome back to yet another episode of Sex Talks Podcast with me, your host, Selma Ndasilohenda Iyambo. As always, I'm super excited to be here with you, and I'm beyond grateful that you chose Sex Talks Podcast once again. If you're a first-time listener, welcome to the Sex Talks Podcast family. Here, we are all about creating an informed and educated society of young people who can openly have conversations about their sexual experiences while sharing their personal experiences and hearing from experts in the field. We are recording yet another episode live from the Be Free Youth Campus thanks to our collaboration with the Be Free Studios under the One Economy Foundation. You can find this youth-friendly space at the Windhoek Multipurpose Youth Center or online at Be Free Namibia. And if ever you find yourself nearby, please do come say hi. We love to see and hear from you. Now, today's episode is one that is titled Men Up, Breaking the Silence Around Men's Mental Health in commemoration of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. We are unpacking what it means to be a man in a world that tells boys that they're not supposed to cry, they need to man up, and they need to suffer in silence. But silence is costing us lives through suicide, addiction, and untreated mental health issues. Joining me in studio is Lloyd Sikeba. He is a powerhouse of purpose, a dynamic professional who wears many hats. He is a motivational speaker, a facilitator, a master of ceremonies, a coach, a youth advocate, a strategist who is reshaping conversations across various platforms. Good afternoon, Lloyd, and welcome to Sex Talks Podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm a bit exhausted. It's been a long day, but I'm excited to be here and glad to have you joining us in studio to unpack this conversation. Now, let's start at the heart of it. Why do men struggle to talk about their mental health?
Well, I think that's a very, very powerful question. Mm-hmm. Because firstly, as a man myself, you know, when it comes to struggling, especially to express yourself, it comes down to cultural teachings and as well as adversity. Mm-hmm. How you grew up determines how you suppress or how you open up. And for far too long, most men find themselves in societies, in environments that have taught them that, listen, suppress, don't speak much, just reserve. That's the spaces that we find ourselves in mostly. And the time you start speaking up, everyone sees it as, it's sort of like it's labeled as a form of weakness, which entirely is a wrong narrative.
Sure. Now, let's look at the latest statistics of suicide amongst men in Namibia. And now looking at those cultural factors that contribute to men up. Suck it up. You're supposed to be a provider. Have you ever found yourself in situations or given your experience with engaging with young men where they're able to tell you that, I was just told to man up? Or is it just one of those situations whereby many of them keep it in them to say that, I'm the man, I'm just supposed to provide?
In terms of situation, thank you very much for that, by the way. In terms of situations, these things exist. Mm-hmm. You get to see, hear, and as well as observe. Mm-hmm. That you can see that this gent or this brother of mine is going through a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. Someone is actually putting too much pressure that you need to provide, you need to do this, that. At the end of the day, you find a man or a boy trying to end up that is being involved in criminal activities because I need to provide at home. I need to make sure that I bring bread and butter, or I need to indeed ensure that there's uniform for my kids, or there is, something at home. And also the narrative where as in people speak to you and tell you that, listen, you need to do this. If you don't do this, then you're not being the character you're supposed to be in. There has been a label according to men. And when you ask the question, if I've seen it or experienced it, I have seen it, I've experienced it. And why I share this narrative is that, one, you hardly hear a man opening up willingly. The most of the times that we as men open up is either at a soccer match, either when we are having a chill session with friends, or as in the slang terms we call with the bras. And this is when you hear someone goes like, man, this happened and all that. But deep down, the question I always ask is that whenever I interact with men is that, how come you don't seek for help? And the response that till today that pains me and touches me, that pushes me to do what I do, is that they'll tell you that, listen, there are no rooms and spaces for men to talk to. And if those rooms are there, chances are when they step into that room, they find a female. And now the question is, the problem I'm going through has either been perpetrated by a female. How am I going to express myself better when I'm speaking to the same person or same character that I'm coming from?
So would it be a situation of there aren't enough safe spaces for men to be able to express themselves where it's just men alone?
Yes, I would definitely agree. There is no safe spaces that men address themselves, because the spaces that we now say that are safe is, we can't call watching a soccer match a safe space. There's a reason we're coming to watch a match. It's not a place where I'm supposed to come and sit, vent, and release. Now, if you look at statistics and even chances, your observation, the number of men that walk into that as a counseling room or a psychologist's room is very few compared to women. Now, the question is it that we are afraid, or these spaces have not been brought to us? Most of the time, the spaces that were brought to us as men is speak to your uncle, speak to your father, speak to your grandfather, or speak to your other male friends or your boss if you have one. Now, if they don't address you or lead you to this angle, it becomes the whole same cycle.
Okay. Now, I love how you mentioned the issue of speak to your uncle, speak to your father. Is speaking to those people the problem, is it now, given the fact that you've mentioned that in other spaces, women are there and men don't open up? Is it that the uncles and the fathers, some of them aren't informed enough to advise you to go seek professional help elsewhere? Where is a broken chain currently?
Yeah, I think I'll definitely agree on that angle, that there is a level of understanding that I can help you to this extent, you need professional help. And there's also a toxicity, or a level of toxicity, in a sense whereby I'm venting out to an uncle, or maybe someone is venting out to an uncle, and they tell them that, come on, you are the man of the house, you need to stand your ground. Now, that in itself, imagine this, you are going to seek for help, and the help is telling you to be more stronger than actually trying to sympathize with you, to actually understand you and lead you to a safer manner and space. So already the problem is not resolved.
I'm going to ask you a very difficult question from my side.
Yes.
Is how do we go about changing this cycle, saying that we've now identified where the root cause of why men aren't speaking, or they're suppressing their emotions and not seeking help outside of the circle they are exposed to?
Wonderful. I think to deal with that, one, they always say that charity begins at home, where it's not just speaking about these things from a house perspective. And this is one thing that pains me every single day, is that we meet up and speak about a certain issue only when it's that month, or only when it's that day of celebrating it. But however, we never live to what we preach in the long run. You see, let's say this, when it's that's a Human Rights Day, everyone that day would speak about human rights, but are we living according to it? When it's Men's Mental Health Month, everyone speaks about it within this month, but are we doing it on a daily? You see, let's not just recognize the time frame it is, but let's live in it. Now, in terms of saying that if we are really doing much more to it, no, we're not doing much to it. The statistics are showing, and even in today's paper, it shows a large number of people that committed suicide. That is for the year 2024. And when I looked at it, and I was like, if you have to look back and ask what is the genuine cause, you'd either find out that there was no one to speak to, or the places that they seek for advice were also toxic. Now, coming to your question as to the places that we find ourselves in terms of where as men we vent to. Yes, culture has taught us, has given us, that is the rooms, the people that we need to speak to. And I appreciate that in terms of our uncles, our fathers, and any male figure, father figure. The danger that we have is this. If the father figure or the male figure that you have is toxic, is dangerous, you become that too. If the father figure or the uncle figure that you have in your society is the one that tells you, listen, you need to keep on being strong, but doesn't tell you that, listen, what you're going through right now needs you to step aside, needs you to breathe, needs you to seek counseling, or someone that walks with you and says that, you know what, let's go and seek for professional help together, rather than us suppressing and saying that, you know what, it will pass. You can't say that the problem will pass as if it's on the calendar. If it's on the calendar, it will still come back that same year. You will still deal with that issue. But you need to find a way that how do you heal through that process that has affected you?
Well, Lloyd, I have another difficult question for you. And given that we're speaking to men out there,
yes,
both that have mentors and those that are mentors to young boys, what input or what advice do you have for them in going about to change this? Because if I'm listening to this episode, then I'm going to be like, is my mentor toxic? How do I identify that my mentor is toxic? And if me as an older man or somebody slightly older that is mentoring a boy is hearing this episode, how do they go about now becoming better so that they change the narrative for the people that they are mentoring?
Now, when it comes to mentoring, I always say that rather than looking for role models, look for real models. Someone you can see that this guy is human too. He cries, he feels, he heals, he seeks for help. Now, so when you get to find yourself like if there's someone, a mentee looking as like, okay, are my mentors the right mentors? There's a level of toxicity in terms of what do they do? Are they teaching you to be violent in society? Are they teaching you to be a careless individual? Because you find someone who goes like, nah man, we are gents, man, this is what we do. But now the question is, yes, this is what we do has a toxic ripple effect on society. And now if you reevaluate that, even in the spaces, if someone is teaching you something that you know already that, hey, but this is not right. But because of, I think we always look for comfort and for safety, like, nah, there's me out here. Like, this is my big man. I respect this guy. He will always come through and protect me. Rather than always looking for someone that will teach me to protect myself in a long run, not in a toxic manner, but in a sensitive manner that's both positive to society. Now, why I bring this is that, how do you know, even as a mentor, how do I get to reevaluate that I'm toxic or I'm not good? The moment the person I'm mentoring starts emulating what I do, and they are doing it just because they want to be like me, it's a good thing. But it becomes dangerous when they forget themselves, who they are. So in mentorship, we always say that don't be another me. Be you, understanding and picking out what you love from me, and also becoming the best version of yourself. Now, mentorship also goes in line as to how do you take Lloyd from point A to point B, but also showing Lloyd that this is how you do it. This is how you create empathy. This is how you care. This is how you can build your family. This is how you can build your friendship cycle. How do I get to understand that whatever toxic environment or space that I find myself in, we get in spaces where, as in, you might have either be having friends that do drugs, and most of the time we just start judging. But then the question I always ask is that, what is leading the boy child or that man to do that? What is leading the men to drink? Some men, naturally, even if you speak to them, they tell you, listen, I'm not one that drinks. It's just the space or the environment that I find myself in. Sometimes the environment creates the mentorship. So also, I would say that if you know that your environment or the space that you're in will definitely make you vulnerable to having this type of mentors, start playing in a different field.
How do I start playing in a different field if my locality where I live in, we just drink? Okay,
this is what I say. Growing up, I speak from a personal background. Growing up, see, we used to dance hip-hop, and our friends used to drink and all that. But I started asking myself, is this the life that you'd want to take? Obviously, when you start moving out, people still, or when you start either staying indoors or being in let's say staying in the library studying or just being involved in advocacy. People are like, you like things, my guy. But the more you are in those spaces, the more your mindset is being, honed and being prepared for that space. Because now you're not avoiding, but you're cutting off from the toxic space, and you are using a better space to limit yourself from that. I use a scenario of this. When someone is moving away from something wrong or toxic, wherever they need to find something to fill in that void. You can't just say that, you know what, I'm in the Lokasi, okay, I stay in Tura, I stay in Shandumbala for that mean. And this is the space, this is my place, right? But if everyone is sort of like involved in a lot of maybe things that are not right, but there is right stuff somewhere there, is that how do I then find a space, find a community of friends who also want to do right? And we become the right of that community. It's not easy to start change in your community. I always say that people will first judge you, people will first critique you, like, you like things. But as time goes by, when everything hits the fan, the one that likes things is the only one that has the solution.
Amazing. I think I'm going to take you back to when we started this conversation around boys are always told, don't cry, you're not a girl, you must toughen up. Now, culture, as you've mentioned, is something that plays a huge role, and how we were raised also plays a big role. Now, let's say I was raised in a setting that says men don't cry, but now I find myself, I'm 25, life is tough, and everything else is happening. How do I now make a shift from what I was raised with to something that works out better for my mental health?
Now, wonderful. So when it comes to culture, I always say this, that whatever has been passed down to us is also a result of whatever was passed down towards our parents. And if no one ever dealt with that issue, with that adversity, it becomes a continuation, becomes a continuing cycle. Now, when you reach your age of 25 and you're like, hey, I was told not to cry. But deep down, I feel like, there's a lot going on here, colleagues. How do I deal with this? One, it's very important to unlearn unrealistic characteristics, or should I say cultural norms that we were taught. That, you know what, you need to strengthen, surface that in. Listen, we all have emotions. I always say this in a joke, but I really mean it. Like, there's a reason why God said that everyone has tears. There's a reason we have tears, even biology. So there's a reason they're there. There's a reason we have emotions. There's a reason even the toughest soldiers or the toughest military commanders, when someone close to them dies, there's something inside that breaks, unless if you're not human.
But how are you not human if you're breathing?
You see, how are you not human if you're breathing? You get me? So when you need to move away from that is, one, identify the problem. Because you can't just move away as to, you identify what is that toxic cultural trait that might be harmful in the time and era that I'm in. If I was taught not to cry, but deep down I feel like, okay, when I cry, I feel at ease. I release that deep emotion. I allow myself to be free. Find this, how do I unlearn that? What narrative was attached to it? Was it about me not being a man? What defines a man then? You get me? Because most of the time it's more of like, no, don't cry, you are a man. So we've labeled a definition to what a man is, what a man is supposed to do, and what a man is supposed to be in a certain space. You get me? But it's very important to then also understand that whatever it is that you do, if a definition is over exhausted and wrongly context, we tend to live to that reality that might harm people in the long run. Henceforth, I'd like to say that there are certain principles, things such as emotions. That is a principle. Everyone goes through that. You cannot, that is, put a blanket and say that no, one gender should not cry. It's everyone that's involved. Back to what you were saying now, how do we deal with it? One, unlearn unrealistic toxic behaviors. Two, put your pride aside as a man. I've done this personally. And I know it's something that we are always shy to speak about. You're just like, now I must put my pride aside. Like, you don't know me. I know where I come from. I was taught, and perhaps maybe you were the top guru or the should I say, the top guy in your community or your society. But hey, when things hit the fan, you need to seek for counseling or help. I always say that, you know what, There were times where, as in, I was shy to speak to someone, especially seeking for professional help. I was like, you can deal with this. I just told myself one day that, you know what? That pride would take you 6 feet underneath the ground. You need help, my brother. I had to have self-talk with myself. You know, those moments when you sleep and you are just like, here we need to see someone. Otherwise, someone will see us going. From there, did the call. You know, at first you are even shivering. They're going to judge me now. And then now when someone even picks up like, yes, hi, how are you? How can we help you?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that comes into your head is silence. You're just like, must I continue? What if they'll judge me? But I'm a guy, man. I'll let it all slide. Until something I came across on the internet that said that letting something slide is like putting soap on the ground. Things will go, but remember that soap is still there. It will still come back. So we need to mop the floor. And that's what I had to do. So I think to all the men that seek for help, unlearn toxic behavior, go put the pride aside and go and seek for help. If you need people to speak to, you can even look for another male figure that you can say, okay, someone is speaking about this area. Let me start maybe speaking up to them and let me befriend them, because sometimes you need to speak to someone to actually feel free. Thirdly is find a space that is non-judgmental. A space where, as in, I know it's not easy to find those spaces, a space where you can sit down and you're like, okay, everyone here is giving me a room to listen to me. Not a room where, as in, they are like, but you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to go and this is what a man's supposed to do. It's beautiful and it's fine. But now, when we don't address the realities on the ground, we will still live the same story.
You mentioned how one is supposed to put their pride aside, and you've also given us an example of how you're going to seek help. Like, if I'm a young boy, a man listening to this conversation, and I might have thought I maybe have it under control, or someday I might have thought that I need some type of help. How do I go about putting my pride aside?
How do you go about putting your pride aside? First things first, it's something that's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a background of fitness, kickboxing, martial arts as well. So most of the time, I think one thing I appreciate is my coach, then my sensei, would always speak up the way we would be boxing or the way we're sparring. And it's like, are you sure you're okay? Because the level at which you are working out or the level at which you are pushing, it's like there's something deep, there's that anger that you're not speaking about. And at times where, as in, I also had to look for mentors as to who to speak to, mentors who I want to learn from. And I sometimes just go like, you know what, even in the moments where you're just shy, I'll bring it in as a third story, like, I have a friend of mine who's going through this and that. Indirectly, I'm speaking about myself.
I am there.
You get me? So I know, because my pride will be like, I must imagine just like, no, I'm going through this heartbreak, and it'll be like, eh. But if I use the concept of my friend, I have a friend who's going through this, that guy, ne? He's going through this and whatnot. So the answer would sort of like ease it off for me, and it will speak to me. And then once I get that feedback, okay, this is what I can actually do. So that's another way to seek for help. I know sometimes as men, we're mostly shy to speak in the face, and like, my guy, last night, my wife and I were fighting and all this, but you can bring in the narrative that, no, something like this happened in our location and whatnot, because at the end of the day, you are seeking for a solution. It might, and that solution, once you start picking up, because it also starts making you feel open, and even the person that's talking to you will feel like, okay, how's your friend? Because my mentor always comes back, so how's your friend doing now? I was like, it's now, man. He's doing good. And then as time goes by, then you start, I think that's when you start, because after you get to realize that, okay, my mentor actually has a care perspective. It's not just like, oh, that story passed out, just passed on and we can deal with it later. Once that care is established, you then start saying that, okay, I'm going through this, because the most important thing that we always seek is trust. The moment you can trust someone, like, here, do or die, I can trust this person. I can tell them, okay, listen, this is what happened. How do I go about this? And without judgment, if they can guide you properly, trust me, you would be able to voice up and open up easily.
Okay. Would you say that there is there's just one definition of what makes a man? I'm just curious, from the top of your head, like, would you say that there's just that one definition that fits all as to what a man is supposed to be in society?
There wouldn't be a correct answer, neither a wrong answer, first of all, to define what makes a man. But in my school of thought and knowledge, I would say care and presence. Care and presence.
Amazing. Now let's talk about the phrase "man up," right? These are phrases we casually throw around to friends, to family, to our kids. Just man up. And what does this mean to you or to other men out there? And how is this harmful to men's mental health? Because now we're just always telling them, right? But I just man up to be over.
I'll give you an illustration. Picture this. Someone is running on a track. And while they are running, they slip. And they're still told, run, keep running, don't stop. And henceforth, anyone that comes on that track, if they walk, they'll be told to run, because for far too long, that track has been believed to, you have to just run. So the definition man up is one that is very toxic, inhuman, very dangerous as well. Because why I say this is that the moment you tell someone to man up always, or for them to always stand strong, it's like a narrative that you put on as to what was done. It's like you're saying soldier up. Soldiers do also have emotions. You can't expect someone to stand strong when people around them, they're dying. Now, coming back to it in terms of manning up, it's very harmful narrative. It comes back from a cultural grounding where you are either taught you need to, this is what is expected of you. When you live off expectations, you run out dry. You run out dry because at the end of the day, you're trying to prove a point that you too can. But rather than, I am doing what I can. When you rather try to say, you too can, you forget that I am doing what I can. Henceforth, that label tells you this. You are doing told that you need to man up, you need to do this, you need to do that. So the moment you can't provide, the moment you can't be present, the moment you can't be strong, it's sort of like it's labeling you as weakness. And we live in a world where, as in hashtag, no, we need alpha males, we need guys that are Riz, or people, men that are strong enough. And once a man sort of like just shows any kind of vulnerability, you're told men up. Now the question is, would that be the same narrative if we had to push it vice versa to a woman and say, woman up?
Woman up to what?
You see, that's the question. See, woman up to what? You see, because now everyone has sort of like pushed the narrative, listen, you are supposed to do everything. If it's not you, then who? But then in times where, as in, what if I don't have an answer? What if I don't have the strength? Am I still expected to serve? Am I still expected to do all these things? When you tell someone man up, where is it emulating from? And why are you saying that? Because someone might have been raised in an empathetic manner as to care, to always be there, and to always say that, you know what, I'm unable to do this, I'm not in the right emotional state. The moment you say that in today's world, as a gent, I'm like, I'm not in the right emotional state, can we do this tomorrow? They're like, what are you saying? My brother, man up, we need to do this, we need to finish this project. Now already that puts pressure. Pressure to be perfect. Pressure to find the answers to everything. There are times when I sit down, I'm like, guys, I don't have the answers to everything. But anyone that has an answer, please do help. I know I'm supposed to be in charge, but I'm human too. You have something that I might not know about.
Wow. Now, I love how you gave an illustration about putting soap on the floor and it consistently coming back if it's not dealt with. Now, in your experience, how do undealt with issues come back to haunt you as a man that has never sought help or spoken about issues affecting them?
I'll use a funny one. I think it's a video about I think it was trending on social media. It's a meme where anger, like anger. You know, many of the times when a problem is not solved for men, there is anger issues. There is resentment, easily irritatable. The child just wants to talk to you. You're like angry, like, can you please move away? And also losing touch with your passions, what you loved. You always loved watching Manchester United. You always loved playing soccer. You always loved being present, staying with family and hanging out. But when something deep down is boiling, you start stepping aside. And as well as you start having also flash modes like panic, where there are times where you're supposed to be having a great time, but you're just zoning out. You just find yourself like, okay, what's really happening? And at the end of the day, you either start doing things just to please people or just to be someone that you're not at the end.
Sure. Must be hard being a man here.
I think that's one thing society has never acknowledged. It is hard to be a man, given that spaces most of the time judge you to be something, someone, and not to actually be you. Because we come from a narrative where, as in, this is what people of your character, of your caliber did. How come you're becoming lesser of that?
Sure. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. Now, we've spoken about what the experiences look like. What are some of the early signs, like the red flag that we often ignore in men that are struggling with their mental health?
Mostly silence, patterns in sleep. See that someone is tired, like you know that this person does not drink or they don't go out partying. But you see that when they come to either work, school, that there's tiredness. Or substance abuse. There is a difference between let's go and drink one bottle to let's go finish the whole shop. And there is also a difference between actually, suppressing your emotions. Signs, you can pick up signs when there's a level of anger that you're just like, hey, you're projecting anger on people you don't know. It's fine. It's fine. Arsenal is losing, but why are you trying to insult the whole team and everyone? You don't even know them. You get me? I know it's that deep, but there's a certain attachment to it. And the other one is also like less eating. Sometimes you just feel like, I don't want to eat, I'm fine, I'm okay. And also at the times, I also study patterns of, because I have friends that I train with and sometimes help teach in terms of workouts. You can see that this person is trying to learn new aggressive things. I'm like, wait, why are we trying to do some of these things? Is everything okay? So we also need to reevaluate. To us that go to the gym, pick up the patterns and see if you're a trainer, like what's happening here. The patterns here seem too aggressive, or there's sort of like anger coming from somewhere. And in other terms also is just interaction. Some men distant. You just see that, you know what, I don't want to talk anymore. It's just a distance. You know that Lloyd is always bubbly, Lloyd is always present, making the jokes and all this. But the moment Lloyd is just like less present in most of the stuff, something somewhere is not right.
Now, stigma, shame, and silence are some of those barriers that you've just mentioned. What are some of the myths about men's mental health that you think we need to address in this conversation today?
I think the needs we need to address is, I think it takes me back to one of my TEDx talk, where I spoke about finding a balanced approach is key. And within that talk, I mentioned 3 things. Number 1, IQ, EQ, AQ. IQ, EQ, AQ.
Okay.
So, and also there's also another 4th one that I'll explain. Now, in terms of things that we need to address, IQ is intelligence quotient. We live in a society where, as in, it's a fact. Society will praise a lot of women graduating, but society will never go and say that all the men here, we are going to make sure we pay for your university. We're going to make sure that you go to school. We're going to make sure that we give you extra classes. We're going to take you through a mentorship program. This is being done by society or by government or someone. Listen, henceforth, when a man, and I say this, when a man's IQ is low, how do you expect him to interact with someone whose IQ is high, especially when I come from a cultural narrative that tells me, man up. So the moment you try to think you're smarter than me, my muscles will speak. Emotional intelligence. The moment I was not, which is EQ, the moment I was not taught how to handle my emotions, because I suppress, I keep inside, I reserve, henceforth the day I explode on everyone. The moment I can't handle my emotions, how do you expect me to handle someone else's emotions? How do you expect me to understand other people's emotions if I'm the one leading a team? If I never got time to learn all this emotional intelligence and how to handle other people. Thirdly is adversity caution. Where I come from, the toxic things I was taught. How do I disassemble them and pick up what is right? You see, correct what is wrong and complement what is right. There's certain things, no, you're not supposed to cry as a man. No, you're not supposed to be in the kitchen. You see, I make jokes personally and I put them on my social media, especially on my WhatsApp. Mm-hmm. I remember, I think 2 days back, I stepped in the kitchen and I was baking biscuits. Mm-hmm. And now I posted it. Someone was like, wait a minute, you can bake? I was like, yeah, men can do that as well. You get me? And someone was like, yo, that's rare. I'm like, the problem is that the narrative we've set is that the moment a man steps in the kitchen, then something is wrong, something is not right. But I always like to remind men that, listen, my brother, you will die of hunger if you cannot cook. You will end up proposing someone just because you want them to fill that void. And at the end of the day, when things go south, it becomes toxic, gender-based violence, abuse. You get me? But if you can handle this, that's why I always say that rather teach a man to do the basics, that he does not impose on someone to feel like, you know what, why aren't you doing this? And the other one is unconditional social validation. Society would tap a woman on the shoulder and say, yeah, you're doing a great job. My lady, you're doing a great job. But a man would do wonders. No one would come and tap them on their shoulder.
Where are the rest of the men? Why aren't you tapping each other on the shoulder?
You see, I think when we speak about, sort of like cheerleading for other men, everyone looks at it as, it's very wrong, we shouldn't speak about it. It's taken as if you are supposed to do that. But at some point, we need to also understand that it's not easy just supposed to do that. If you get me on that. Now, I think just to bring back also to your question as to what needs to be done, we also need more educational programs. Educational programs that address in terms, speak to men as well, in a manner that is human enough and not gendered enough.
What does that mean?
What does that mean is that programs are now sort of like cheerleading, yay, this to the girl child, yay, this to the world, yay, this to the child. But no one says, yay, this to men. We speak about the child, but we forget the man. We speak about the woman, but we forget the man. But we're forgetting that this man is the one that is present, is the one that most of the children see. How do you expect to create a better man when you're not helping him become a better man?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I hear you when you speak about programming for young people, right? Especially young men, older men. The conversation is around the child, woman, but nothing about the boy child. And the conversation on social media has been, what about the boy child? We are leaving the boy child behind. My question to you is, who is leaving the boy child behind? Where are the men in this conversation?
Wonderful. So, to sound very truth to its core, programs for far too long have been centered, have been redirected to women, which is not a bad thing. Women where there's a disadvantage, taken, things were actually not right. You get me? But the problem has then become that when you grow a tree and you forget the soil, the tree will grow. But once the soil shakes, that tree will fall. That's the environment we find ourselves in. Women have been empowered, but in the same vein, we have ignored the boy child. Now, when the boy child, or when men cannot coexist, co-understand how to be in the same environment with an empowered, educated woman, the soil shakes. There is a clash, there is a battle. Henceforth, when we speak about this as to who's leaving the boy child behind or who's not doing anything, it's everyone. You get me? It's everyone, because now if we try and push it and say that no, men, you are leaving the boys not attended to. But if we look back, we get to see that, okay, maybe the men that are present is those that are in gangs, and they are fully present there. Because you see, most of the time, boys, we are very easily prone to, I'd rather want to be in a space where I'm protected, where I can actually feel safe, where I can actually feel loved and cared for. And most of these spaces that welcome me is like, that's my outie there, or that's my senior. If anything happens to me, I know where to run to. Now look at this. If that characteristic is toxic, how do you expect that quality to build me into a better person? However, on the other hand, the spaces that we see in, that we genuinely see, is that women are empowered, taken through programs and whatnot, all these things, which brings me to the point of IQ. The boy child is ignored.
By who?
When we speak by who, is that systems. Look at the program. Let's say you're applying for something. Most of the systems will tell you women and children, and women and those who are disabled are highly advised. So is it highly encouraged to apply? So now what narratives does this tell you as a boy? Am I also highly advised to apply? Or am I told, like, you know what, you already had this?
I have another question for you. When you say that the system and the programming that is currently existing is favoring women and girls more, is it men and women that are into that system? Yes.
Yes.
When you see different programs and initiatives that are happening in our communities, we see that women who were empowered decided to say that I'm giving back to the community. I'm going to make sure that other women are empowered. Are men doing the same thing? Because we have men in different groups.
Yes.
And how much are men doing for the boy child is a conversation we need to have. Are they doing and just not enough that women need to support them? Or are they doing nothing at all and asking, what about the boy child, while they sit idle?
So men are doing something. However, it's labeled as toxic masculinity.
How so?
You get me? It's labeled as a narrative that is wrong to teach. You get? So it's more of like you learn how to swim, and only you're told that your swimming style is harming the fish.
But wasn't that the same concept that happened when girls started getting empowered, but people sold out on regardless because they knew what the end goal was? Are men giving up?
No, men are not giving up. That's why these conversations are important. Men are still stepping in. There's brothers, keepers, and men were still being there for each other. You get me? However, the spaces are still. There's also a population difference. You get me? See that population-wise, women are a lot. And now, how do you battle that?
Would you like women to come to the rescue of men due to population dynamics?
No. There's nothing like women. There's nothing wrong with women coming to the rescue of men due to population dynamics. The most important thing to understand here is how can we coexist in the same world without harming each other? You get me? And then that all lies into an aspect of how do we balance. The danger of also coming back to the boy child and say that no, the boy child is being left behind. What will happen is that the boy child would be brought back up and then the girl child still stands. What needs to happen is that how do we educate, empower the boy child to coexist? Because if you're saying left behind, most of the conversations being had, no, it's okay to cry. We knew that it's okay to cry. But the story that was never spoken about is, how do I cry? Are you ready to see me cry? Do you get me? I always say this, that is a woman ready to see their husband cry? And how are they going to handle that? So the most important is, how do we coexist without sort of like clashing?
Amazing stuff. Now we're moving towards the end of this episode, but before we can let you go and before we move into the quickfire segment, I know that you've hosted Majita Mondays here at the Be Free Youth Campus, and you've had a lot of conversations with young men. What are some of the conversations that you've had with young men that you believe are crucial for them to have at a very young age that some of our listeners can benefit from?
I think, thank you very much. I'd also just like to appreciate that is the Be Free campus as well as the Break Free and One Economy Foundation for all the activities that I've done in terms of hosting the Majita Monday. Is that it has been a wonderful platform engaging with men. And some of the conversations were around that is consent. You know, growing up, if you come from a cultural background, you're just like, you're a boy, you just do what you have to do. So I'd always speak about consent. We live in a world where you need to ask if you're dating someone, don't just say like, it's fine, you're my girlfriend. No, but talk to the person. Are you okay with this? Even if it's your friend, are you okay with this? Are you not okay with this? Consent, number one. Secondly, is also less emotional suppression. Because as we spoke with men, I'd say that, listen, how many of us sometimes break, but we're shy to cry? And having engaged, you see that someone go like, yeah, I found that out. I want to cry, but I'm just like, where I come from, we don't cry, man. On this autism, like as they would say in Afrikaans, like, yeah, we're the big guys, we can't cry. And also educating about, being present, fathers, because there are times where as it would speak that is to young fathers. And I'd say that, listen, we live in a society where as in there is a high number of present fathers in their children's lives. And we had to speak about the narrative as to, even if you don't have the money, even if you don't have all the resources, you being present is a gift to your child. And how do you move away from the narrative of saying that, you know what, no, they just don't want me to see my child and whatnot, rather than you showing up. So we'd also speak about this. And still on that, we'd also speak about violence. How do you move away from toxic environments, violence, crime activities? How do you notice when you have the right or the right mentors or the people that are supposed to be in a space? And we'd always discuss some of these things, not from a book perspective. I think that's one thing I always tell people that, listen, when I'm talking about the boy child or speaking to men, I don't use a book perspective. I always say that, listen, let's go on the ground. Because I personally myself, it's not that just because one spots me and says that, you look all put together. The put together had to happen from the cracks. Had to happen from being in a squad, and being with around friends that, at the end of the day, you get to realize that something here is not right. So we get practical and say, okay, listen, this is what most men like. Most men, even talking about violence, crime in society, we speak as how do we prevent it? How do we start being safekeepers of our society? Whereas when a woman is walking, they shouldn't be afraid when they see 3 or 4 men sitting around the street. But they should actually go like, you know what, it's okay. Rather than it being when you see 4 women on the street corner, you're comfortable walking. But if you see 4 men on the street corner, your heart even races. You don't know if you should get a taxi. Okay. So how do we start protecting and looking at that?
Amazing. I like how we've touched base on what about the boy child. Now, as we wrap up this conversation, how can we better include and cater for the boy child in our society when it comes to mental health?
Now, how we can cater for the boy child in our society is create more safe spaces for the boy child, and let's have dialogues and action dialogues. Dialogues and action dialogues.
Dialogues.
What we are speaking, let's also do it. Because every time I tell myself, Lloyd, you can't just speak about the hey, we need to do this, or what is written in a book. Can you leave the book so that someone can say, okay, here Lloyd was crying, here Lloyd really fell down, and this is how we recovered from that.
Amazing. And we are now moving into the quickfire segment. Those are 3 questions that you get to answer for us with at least 1 response. Very short, very brief, and very sweet. Now, your first question for this quickfire segment is, what's that one stereotype about men that you wish you could erase forever?
Emotional suppression.
Great. Your second question is, what's that one simple way a friend can support a man in crisis?
Check in and really listen.
Really listen. Emphasize on the really listen. Your final question is, what's that one thing that you want girl or young men to know about their mental health?
Mental health matters. Don't suppress just because of what you were taught. It's okay to unlearn things that are toxic and to learn things that are necessary, and to become the unique version in your community, society, your street, or your classroom that other people can learn from. It might look like a joke, a laughing stock, But at the end of the day, people will go like, you know what, you're going through something? Go to Lloyd, go to Max, go to Peter. He's done something about it. You took him to something about it.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for taking time from your very, very busy schedule that you have. I mean, you wear a lot of hats, but we appreciate the fact that you took time to be here with us and have a conversation with us, especially about one thing that is very, very crucial in our communities, given the statistics that we get to see on a weekly, on a monthly, and on a yearly basis. Now, to all our male listeners, your feelings are valid, and your silence does not make you any stronger. If anything, it makes you weaker, because one day, what you've been keeping in for so long will come back to bite you. You will explode, and at some point, you might explode onto the wrong people. And to everyone, let's create safe spaces where our brothers, our friends, our partners, our fathers, and all men in our society can fully show up without shame, without fear of stigma, and without that fear of being judged, of what if they look at me funny when I cry? What if they don't believe my story? So it's really one of those situations. And with that being said, until next time, please do protect your peace, speak your truth, stay curious, and take care of your mental health. Amigos, adios.